For many of you who regularly fly out of Wilmington International Airport, this probably won't be a surprise, but ILM is predominantly a business market. About 70% of passengers are business travelers. And that means the airport is what you depend on to determine what meetings you're going to set, how long it takes to get there across the country, how many layovers you're going to have to do, and whether you get to come home the same day. Starting January 1st, the person at ILM who gets to field all your calls about how you should be getting home later in the same day and how you should have more direct flights around the country will be Julie Wilsey. Starting in January, she takes over as the next airport director after having served as deputy director for the past several years. She was hired in 1999 as the director of facilities and engineering at ILM. So congratulations on your new job, no pressure. Julie asked me not to add too much pressure to her before she starts up, so I think I may have just ticked off the person who has the phone number to the TSA. I first got to know Julie a couple years ago when she was named as Wilma Magazine's Women to Watch Award winner in my capacity as co-editor of the magazine. And ever since then, she has been supportive in helping our efforts to recognize other female leaders in the community. So today, to speak on the role of teamwork in her job and in our community is Julie Wilsey, the next airport director of ILM.
Good morning. I would like to thank Rob for the opportunity, and to this community. You've been very good to me all these years. Many of you know that I graduated from West Point, also called the United States Military Academy. It is an institution known for developing military leaders based on strict traditions and a lot of regulations. And as a freshman or a plebe, there are a lot of requirements and regulations. Now, one of those requirements is to memorize an enormous amount of information and recite it back upon request. And of all that I remember from that experience and from all that memorization is one quote from General Douglas MacArthur. And the quote goes like this: "Upon the fields of friendly strife are sown the seeds that upon other fields, on other days, will bear the fruits of victory." See, I didn't even look at the screen. I've got that one. Now, this quote refers directly to teamwork, because teamwork is important for any successful organization. And teamwork has been part of all the successes that I've experienced. And my team is right over here, or at least part of my team. So good morning. Now also, another requirement at West Point is that every cadet play on an intramural or an intercollegiate athletic team. Well, so I chose to play fast pitch softball. And I was blessed with a tremendous coach who emphasized teamwork, and he taught me many lessons. So today I'm going to share with you a few of those lessons. The first lesson, focus on what you have. Now, I need to set the stage a little bit before we start the story. In 1990, Army softball became a Division I team in the NCAA. Before that, we were Division II. So when we moved to the Patriot League, we had some new opponents, like Bucknell, Holy Cross, Lehigh, some really good schools, and they had a really good recruiting program. Well, at the academy, we normally recruited a pitcher or a catcher or a shortstop and a few hitters. But because of that requirement, a lot of our team were walk-on athletes. And because of that, our team was a little smaller in stature than most teams. We may have been a little light on talent. So my first 2 years at the academy on the team, we struggled. And we had 2 coaches in 2 years. And for all of you in sports, that's not a great sign. So before my junior year, the academy was searching for a coach who would stay with the team and take us to that Division I level. So they convinced a retired colonel at the academy who was working in a different department, Jim Flowers, to take the Army softball team. And so he met with us the first practice. He ran us through our paces, practiced hitting, fielding, all the fundamentals. And after about 3 practices, he called the team meeting. And he sat the team down and he said, I know you're a fine group of ladies, and I know you're going to work hard. But if we're going to take Army softball to the Patriot League Championship in the spring, we're going to have to work really hard as a team. And we're going to have to develop an offense based on our strengths. And he said, based on the team that I see here today, I see 2 strengths. I see speed, and I see discipline. So Army softball is going to become the best base running team in the Patriot League, and that's how we're going to win games. And that's exactly what we did. From that practice on, not only did we practice the fundamentals of pitching and catching and fielding, we actually practiced running the bases. And we became the best base running team there was. We even practiced sliding. I mean, how many people practice sliding? And so from that point on, Army softball was known as a threat on the base paths. And it actually shook up a lot of our opponents. But we had to do that. We had to focus on the skills that we had. Now the second lesson, communicate and execute. It's very important. And I told you we were a running team. That's how we were going to run the offense. And actually Coach, of course, he was the mastermind of this offense. So in order to make that happen, he ran the game from the third base coaching box. So when a batter got on base, her job was to turn to the third base, watch him in the third base coach's box, and execute the plays and the signals he was giving. And he was a very simple guy, kept it really simple for us. Anytime his hands went up like this, you ran. Run, just run, keep running. And you didn't stop until he went like this. Stop, pretty simple. Now, if you were running and his hands were like this, and it went like this, he went down like this, it meant you better pick up a little speed and you better hit the dirt, because it was going to be close. But again, it worked for us, time and time again. Simple communication. And as long as you executed the way he wanted to, it was fine. Now, we got thrown out every now and then, but again, because the other team knew we were running, they were normally on edge, and it forced them to make a lot of errors, and we did okay. That leads me to the third lesson, and this is my favorite lesson, because make something happen was our team mantra. I told you we were small in stature. We didn't plan on hitting a lot of home runs. It was highly unlikely that any of us were going to hit it out of the ballpark. So before we went to bat each inning, we'd get in the huddle, and we would say, make it happen. That was immediately the message to everyone on the team that we needed to string 3 or 4 or 5 very small, very simple things together. A walk, a steal, a base hit. That's all it took. Because in softball, to win the game, you still have to get 1 run on the board. We like to have 2 or 3 to have a couple extra. But we had to do those 4 or 5 simple things, make it happen so we could score that run. And so that's what we did. That leads me to the fourth lesson. Always go down swinging. Now, Coach emphasized that every pitch counted when you were in the batter's box. Because, again, we were trying to make something happen. And so anytime we had somebody in scoring position on third base, the batter was in the box. If the count went to 2 strikes, Coach would call a timeout. He'd meet that batter between home plate and the third base coaching box and have a little conference. It was mostly to calm you down, but he would square your shoulders, look you in the eye, and he would say, the team needs you now, so make sure you go down swinging. And again, the message was clear. He wanted you to get back in the batter's box and get active with the pitcher. If the pitch was anywhere close to being a strike, your job was to put the bat on the ball, foul it off, whatever. You were to be an active batter, because the worst thing that you could do was to fail by watching that pitch go in the catcher's mitt. And you know, on the college level, it is a pitcher's game, and you struck out a lot or you got out a lot. A good batting average is anything over 300. But actually that means that at least 1 out of every 3 times you got on base. Because again, base runners mean scoring opportunities. And scoring opportunities led to runs, and runs was how we won the game. So how did we end up that year, that first year with Coach Flowers? I'm proud to say that we batted .309 as a team. We won the Patriot League Championship Tournament, going undefeated in the season. And our coach was named Coach of the Year. And we followed up the next year with the same exact success, 2 years in a row. And how did we do that? We followed Coach's 4 simple rules. Focus on what you have, communicate and execute, make something happen, and always go down swinging. Now, throughout my personal and private life, I've referred back to these 4 simple rules time and time again. They're universal. They can be applied easily to just about any issue in any group. Following Coach Flowers' 4 simple rules has served me very well through my career, and I'm thankful for every opportunity, especially the opportunity to be on the Army softball team. And my experience with Coach is not an isolated event. My teammates and classmates, Colonel Jackie Patton, Colonel Michelle Schmidt, Lieutenant Colonel Jamie Shawley, and Major Retired Jennifer Braddock have all had very successful careers as well. And I'm sure that Coach Flowers impacted many more women in his 19 years as coach of Army softball. And finally, I would say I would not be here today if I had joined a different sporting team at West Point. I am grateful for all the lessons that Coach has taught me. And the next time you have a challenge with your team, apply these 4 rules. They've always worked really well for me. And given that this weekend is the Army-Navy football game, there's one last thing that I have to say today. Beat Navy.